Hello and good morning. Welcome to Fantasy Life Start Sit Hour. Myself and the great Chris Allen back in action. Hope to get you a scholar in the right position. Hopefully win some fantasy matchups today. So hope you guys have been enjoying us throughout the year. Unfortunately, Matt LaMarca and myself last week didn't tell enough folks to start Michael Wilson. So Matthew Berry made a few calls and we got Chris Allen back in action here. What's up, man?
Man, fellas, I don't understand how you guys couldn't have made this call. I mean, the man had been averaging, let's say, 2 to 3 targets per game. You knew his rapport with Jacoby Brissett was going to be one that would put Brissett into the Hall of Fame. How did you guys not see this coming? So I guess I get it. I get it. Everybody makes mistakes. According to you, Hartitz, like you always say, we always have to watch the tape and try and get better. So we're going to do that this week and get the people set for week 12.
As always, appreciate all you guys hanging out, sending those start sit questions. We will start from the bottom and get to as many as we can in the next 60 minutes. Luckily, though, Chris, we usually have to start out these shows talking about all the weather problems. None today. How about that?
Yeah, after last week where it was a bunch of wind, rain, all sorts of stuff going on, whether it was out in New York and a few other places, Cleveland, if I'm remembering right, this week, none of those concerns. So we'll take that little bit of a reprieve from the elements and then let's just talk ball instead, without having to worry about the elements.
Injuries that we need to worry about. Josh Jacobs with his knee, still very much a game time decision. Obviously, will be wheels up for Emmanuel Wilson if he is out. And then Aaron Rodgers with his left wrist. We actually just got a note from Dan Griziano, huge reporting here, guys, where Rodgers walked around the field pregame, flipped off some cameras that were recording him with his right hand. It is unclear if he could have flipped a bird with his left hand. So thank you, Dan, for that. We are expecting Kenneth Walker, Ramondre Stevenson, Chris Godwin, although in a limited fashion, Alvin Kamara, Xavier Worthy, Bretton Strange to all play. Meanwhile, Joe Burrow is out. It will be another week of the Joe Flacco experience. So with all that in mind, let's get into these start sit questions. As always, these are not legal. I guess it can be legally binding. Hopefully we're right. And if we're wrong, you can blame us for that. Starting off with our guy, Gut Checker. Good morning to you as well. Sit one in full PPR, George Pickens, Tyrone McMillan, or Emeka Ibuka. Coming in hot, Chris, with a 6-team question. I am not sitting Pickens or Ibuka, so I guess it'd be T-Mac.
Yeah, I guess it would be T-Mac, although, man, any wide receiver that gets to face the 49ers, that'd typically be somebody that we would want to start. But with the amount of volume that Pickens has been seeing, even though he's going to be going up against the Eagles defense, which I know has been fairly stout against perimeter wide receivers. And then also for McMillan, or Egbuka rather, like we were talking, like you were just mentioning earlier, Chris Godwin coming back into the fold. So that could push Emeka back out to the outside because we did see them both rotate to the interior in the first few weeks that Godwin was active. I would say that there's a chance for, I would say, lesser output than we had in the past for either of those two receivers. But still, I mean, those are the guys that you want to roll with, just given the amount of connection that we've already seen with their quarterbacks. And of course, for both of those guys, we would think that those should be, I would say, not necessarily higher scoring matchups, but they should be contested matchups considering the opponents for both of them. Dallas facing the Eagles, and of course, the Rams having to go up against the Bucs. I mean, there should be some pretty tough matchups, or at least I would say fantasy friendly matchups considering the opponents.
Our consensus wide receiver 12, Pickens wide receiver 10, and Ibuka wide receiver 9 over in our fantasy life ranking. So certainly a good problem to have there. From our guy Craig, good morning. Start 2 in full PPR. Christian Watson, Luther Burden, and Parker Washington. We did hear that Matthew Golden is going to be out in this one for whatever that is worth. So maybe could be a few more areas to go around for someone like Christian Watson. Chris, I am leaning, I would say Watson and Burden. It's a little bit closer between him and Washington. I might have Washington ahead of him. I want Burden to be that guy. I do, in fact, have Parker Washington ahead. So no BTJ for another week. The right answer is probably Watson and Parker, but I want Burden to be a thing here.
Do too, and I guess the only pushback that I would have against starting Parker Washington over either of those two guys is that we've seen the Jaguars essentially, I wouldn't say try to hide Trevor Lawrence, but the passing game hasn't been as much of a focus for the Jaguars over the past few weeks. Pass rate over expectation has been down relative to the earlier parts of the season. Now that could be due to not having either of Brian Thomas Jr. or Travis Hunter available for them, but at the same time, we've noticed a couple of plays where Trevor Lawrence is throwing high to whichever wide receiver is out there on the field. And of course, what was it? The stuff earlier in the year where he was looking at Liam Cohen and just kind of waving him off and all the rest of that jazz. So until they start to get that back in sync, I would at least have some general concerns about starting a guy like Parker Washington. And I'm with you. I think I want Luther Burden and just the upside of him in this offense a bit more than either of the two. So I'd say my gut agrees with you in saying Parker Washington, but my heart wants either of Burden or Christian Watson.
As always, when we're trying to get between our heart and our gut, we go the Xfinity Start Sit tool, and it is recommending Christian Watson and Parker Washington. So in this case, I will tip my cap to the tool. We'll see how that attitude persists as the show goes on. Blockbuster managers in the house. What's up? Trevor Lawrence or Daniel Jones? RBs are Jonathan Taylor and Travis Etienne, if that makes a difference. So you got both of them, so I don't really think it makes a difference. I don't love Jones popping up with the calf injury, but let's face it, he's still been in another stratosphere than T-Law more weeks than not this year. So give me DJ. How about you, Chris?
Yeah, I'll still go with it. Of course, they are coming off of the bye, but traveling to Kansas City, having to face the Chiefs defense, Steve Spagnuolo, it's going to be a tough out for any opposing quarterback. But I would say with the amount of play action that Shane Steichen has called up for him, wide receivers like Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, even Tyler Warren, those are the types of guys that you would want on the other end of those pass attempts. So even if the Chiefs defense does start to break through the Colts offensive line, he does have a number of outlets that should keep him upright throughout most of the game. So even without the potential for rushing there with a calf injury, like you just noted, I would say that Daniel Jones has at least more, I would say, better pass catchers and also slightly a bit more upside, just given the back and forth element to the Chiefs Colts game that we should be projecting for this week.
That week off did do him some good because, guys, weeks 1 through 8 combined, Jones took 9 sacks, had 3 picks and 2 fumbles. Weeks 9 through 10, a 2-game stretch, he had 4 picks, 6 fumbles, and 12 sacks. So wheels were starting to fall off before the bye. Again, hopefully Steichen has his guy ready to go now. From Sky Raven in the chat, what's up, man? PPR, Flowers, Michael Wilson, or Emmanuel Wilson? Tough test here after a rough week 11, Chris. And guess what? I'm gonna stay on my base here. Give me Zay Flowers. I believe in this one. It is close, but going up against the Jets, there are some, I guess, minor win concerns in that game per Kevin Roth, but 10 miles per hour sustained, gusts up to 20. Not something we're normally gonna worry about. So again, all due respect to Michael Wilson, who could get the job done. I am also, just a Zay Flowers homer. So I'll be curious to see what the Xfinity Start Sit tool says, Chris. I do wonder if Emmanuel Wilson could be the play if Jacobs is indeed ruled out. Where do you fall with this?
I would say I'd go with Zay Flowers for right now out of that bunch. But yeah, if we wind up getting the news that Jacobs is going to wind up sitting, because they play on Thanksgiving, don't they? So I'm wondering if the tight turnaround is part of the calculus for them. So if we get the news that Wilson is going to wind up being the starter for the Packers, I think he vaults in front of either Michael Wilson or Zay Flowers. But if things stay static or the things stay the way they are right now, I would tend a bit more towards Zay Flowers. The only problem is the man just isn't getting into the end zone. I mean, what's it been like since week 3 or week 4 or something like that? The last time week 1. Golly, yeah, it's been that long since he fell into the end zone. But I would say with the amount of volume that he's getting in the offense, Rashad Bateman is still working back from his high ankle sprain. Really don't see too many other guys separating. So I think it's Zay Flowers for right now.
Denzel Ward hawked him down. I believe it was last week. Seemed like he was finally going to find the end zone again.
Yeah, like the 3-yard line or whatever.
Yeah, man. So Xfinity Start Sit is also recommending Flowers. So if anything goes wrong here, make sure you guys devote all your complaints to the fine folks over at Xfinity. 100% kidding. Zay Flowers is also ranked ahead of Michael Wilson from all of our Fantasy Life alleged rankers. We appreciate them, Xfinity, and you as well for tuning into the Fantasy Life show. From our guy Wesley, needs same question. Awesome. Sky Raven and Wesley have the same question. Caleb Williams or Daniel Jones? I'm going Caleb here easily, Chris. Honestly, one of the biggest discrepancies in our entire rankings in the show this week was I was much higher on most Bears than Dwayne was. I'm not overly scared of the Steelers defense. I know they've been playing a little bit better recently, moving Jalen Ramsey back to full-time safety. They brought in Duggar and everything. They've gone from being atrocious to just being more like average to below average. But even in some of these better games, like the Colts game and everything, did everything they had to do to win, and they won. They should be applauded for that. But Daniel Jones still moved that offense up and down the field, finished with like 350 plus total yards just on his own. So in this situation, man, I just think there's enough going for Caleb, particularly once you start considering the injury factor with one Daniel Jones and everything, to go ahead and make me feel comfortable about Bears here. So give me Caleb regular and 6-point passing touchdowns. Do you agree?
Agree, and I would say it's a testament to Caleb Williams' improvement over the season in the amount of times that he's been able to pirouette and almost do the Russell Wilson, the prime Russell Wilson thing,
Yeah.
where he escapes pressure and gets the ball downfield and doing one of those 360 no scope type of things where he can just huck the ball to whomever down the perimeter. So I would say Caleb Williams for that, and also if we do have some general concerns about Jones's health because of the calf injury, Williams has been scrambling and been able to either convert a series, move the chains, or even wind up pushing his way into the end zone a couple of times this season. So if you want that upside to go with it, I would say Williams is the better option of those two.
Good question from Wesley. If Jacobs is out in full PPR, start two, Dowdle, Kyron, or Wilson. I do think it is Dowdle and Kyron over that, but I'll use this opportunity to go through some of the running backs and kind of where we do have Emmanuel Wilson. So right now in my ranks, I am assuming Jacobs is out just because it's kind of easier that way. If Jacobs is in, you're starting him. So I just think this is kind of the bigger question. Emmanuel Wilson is my RB 18. Other fantasy life rankers are kind of doing the same thing. He's as low as 21, as high as RB 17. Okay. So Dowdle and Kyron, I mean, they're all at least top 12 by everyone. So again, Wilson is my RB 18. Guys I have just ahead of him: Breece Hall, DeAndre Swift, Travis Etienne, Quinshon Judkins, Ashton Genty, Kyron, Travion, and then Javonte Williams and Rico Dowdle. Guys I would start Emmanuel Wilson ahead of, though: Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara, Kenneth Walker, questionable, but expected to play in both accounts. Woody Marks already played. Jalen Warren, Kareem Hunt, David Montgomery, Zach Charbonnet. So that's kind of where I'm at, Chris. If you are a featured like 3-down running back in an offense that we actually think could be okay, the Bears, the Jaguars, stuff like that, that's kind of who I'm leaning towards. And then we just have, the Judkins, the Genties, and the Breece Halls of the world could just get 25 touches. We wouldn't think twice. I'm starting them ahead of those guys. It's more so the players that have a few more touch questions. Jalen Warren, Kenneth Walker with the Seahawks, always dealing with that, and or in bad offenses. Those are situations where I'm not dying to start Emmanuel Wilson ahead of. So RB 18, does most of that sound about right to you, Chris?
Right. And we've seen over the past couple of weeks, any offensive skill player going up against the 49ers has been able to play well, and that lends itself to Rico Dowdle. Bam Knight found his way into the end zone. Kyron Williams, that you were just talking about, 2 touchdowns against the 49ers. So with that defense cratering, I would say that if you're getting the volume against that defense, Dowdle should be the guy. And Kyron, even though there has been that split with Blake Corum, I would say that that's why I do have some general concerns about him. So if we get the news about Jacobs, I'd say Emmanuel Wilson and Dowdle would be my choice there.
Wow, you will go Manning over Kyron? Chris.
I think so. I think that's where I would go. Even though it is up against the Vikings, I'd say just from a volume standpoint, because we also have seen Wilson operate in the passing game as well. So if we're looking for additional options for Jordan Love, I would give him the edge, but it's close.
It is. I think Jacobs has 28 touchdowns in 28 games with the Packers. So no, Jacobs could obviously mean Emmanuel Wilson steps right into that role. So we will see what goes on there. All right. As also, Kyron is facing Vita Vea and company, so it would make sense if that is not going to be the most efficient day. From Ross, start Kate Otten or Jawan Johnson. So I'm not expecting too much from Chris Godwin, but just even independent of Godwin, man, Juwan's actually been playing a lot better with Tyler Shuck. I know, he had those first great 3 weeks of the year. We were unironically ranking him as a top 6 tight end. What a time to be alive. Fell off a little bit, but he's actually come back pretty strong and putting forward some low-end tight end 1 week. So give me Juwan. I'm confident enough in Shuck. And just with Otten, man, I think only Jacoby Myers has more targets without a touchdown this year. Yeah, he's a perfectly fine top 15 option, but I just think Juwan is just a little bit more upside. What say you, Chris?
Yeah, I would go Johnson too, and it still cracks me up that Tyler Shuck, who is in his first year in the NFL, used to play with Juwan Johnson. I mean, the man was with Justin Herbert's backup back in the day.
I know.
But yeah, my general concern with Cade Otton is, to your point, that even when he was earning volume, he wasn't finding his way into the end zone. And now you tack on Chris Godwin. You could have Sterling Shepard getting involved. We already talked about Egbuka being involved as well. There are a number of short area to intermediate targets already for Baker Mayfield, and now we're adding in one of the primary pass catchers back into that passing game. So Cade Otton, I think, slides to the back end of, let's say mid-range tight end 2s, I think, is where I would put Cade Otton. Whereas Juwan Johnson, with the removal of Rashid Shaheed since his move over to the Seahawks, we could see a scenario where he starts to now pick up a few more targets. And this is also a game where Alvin Kamara comes into this game with the ankle injury that he's been carrying for a number of weeks. So if there are a few more targets to go around in the Saints offense, the quality might be a little bit lower because it's Shuck throwing the ball, but still, we'll take the volume.
By the way, not consensus with our fantasy life rankers. Dwayne and myself have Juwan Johnson over Kate Otten. However, Waz, Kendall, and Matthew Friedman are actually Team Otten. So it is a good question for sure, Mr. Ross. From our guy, Greggy. What's up, Greggy? We got a 6-point touchdown passing question. Jacoby Brissett or Brock Purdy? So I think I do lean Brock Purdy just out of respect to him, but Jacoby really is in that conversation right now. Yeah, this is going to be consensus, okay? Brock Purdy from our rankers is a consensus QB8. We have Jacoby down there at QB11 overall. So close, but it is 5 for 5. We are preferring Purdy over Brissett. You on the same page, Chris? Because again, as great as these weeks have been, like, come on, how many times can we really expect Jacoby to put up these numbers with exactly one wide receiver that apparently defense has got to care about, and then, of course, check it out.
Well, yeah, because it would be one thing. It's one thing that we're getting a lot of questions about Michael Wilson. And of course, everybody's starting Trey McBride. But I don't see the same number of questions. And we'll see if once we get into the show a bit more, I'm not seeing the same questions for Greg Dortch. We're not chasing any of the additional pass catchers for Arizona. So it's not like we're assuming this is now going to be this new offense, this new heavily fantasy friendly type offense. We know where everybody's bread is buttered. We know the primary pass catchers. So I would say if Purdy now has Juwan Jennings, George Kittle, CMC, and now we'll see if Ricky Pearsall can get sprinkled in there as well. The amount of firepower for Purdy gives him the edge in my mind over Brissett.
For the record, last week in the Fantasy Life Rankings update chat, I had Waz come out and say once Marv was rolled out, like Greg Dortch, wide receiver 1, Ian. And I said, no, Waz, that's ridiculous. This is my job. I'm here to help people. Like, he's my wide receiver 12, not my wide receiver 1. Come on. He finished top 12 last week, Chris. Greg Dortch, wide receiver 1 season is alive and well. That said, guys, we do have Greg Dortch ranked all the way down there at wide receiver 44. So not going too crazy by any stretch of the imagination. Michael Wilson, though, is our consensus wide receiver 20. Okay, so he is behind the Eagles wide receivers, Zay Flowers, as we mentioned before, Rome Odunze, Jameson Williams, Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson, Tedero McMillan. So very, very good real life and fantasy players. A.J. Brown is neck and neck with them. If you wanted to go Michael Wilson over A.J. Brown, that's a decision you have to make with yourself and God, but I honestly do think you have at least some sort of rationale for that. Guys, we would be starting Michael Wilson, or guys, we would start Michael Wilson over, I should say, Michael Pittman, DK Metcalf, Wan'Dale Robinson, Alec Pierce, the Packers wide receivers, the 49ers wide receivers, Jordan Addison, amongst others. So certainly well ahead of a lot of guys that, again, this time last week, maybe we wouldn't have been going quite that far down the road with. From our guy, Joe, can I start both Seattle running backs this week, Charbonnet and Walker? I don't know why, but it feels gross. This would be the spot, man. 13.5-point favorites. Now, the Titans' run defense isn't atrocious by any stretch. We've actually seen them basically against anyone other than Jonathan Taylor hold up pretty fine. You know, they still got their big defensive tackles in there and everything. So I don't think it's the best matchup on the ground, but that scoring upside, man, they could just fall into the end zone twice. Honestly, Chris, that's why I picked Rashid Shaheed for my stupid little helicopter thing, was just, I know the Seahawks will be putting up points. I feel better about their aerial attack. And yeah, obviously Jackson Smith and Jig was going to get him, but that's too easy. So I thought Shaheed, with no more Torrey Horton, third game in the system, would have an opportunity to make take the top off this Titans defense. So again, Walker and Charbonnet, both top 27 backs, but there's a reason why now the guy's also like in our top 12.
Only, to your point, Jonathan Taylor is the only 100-yard rusher that the Titans have allowed so far this season because they've already played each other twice. Outside of that, yeah, Ramondre Stevenson got into the end zone, even Ashton Genty as well. So it has been a bit spotty in terms of the running backs that have performed well against the Titans defense. It's really through the air that you would want to try and challenge them. So yeah, I'm with you. I would say wide receivers or the pass catchers that are involved with the Seahawks would be the guys that I would want to lean a bit more towards. But if you are looking towards it being more possessions for the Seahawks, I get it. But yeah, I would have some trouble playing both running backs against the Titans because it just doesn't seem like there's enough touchdown equity between the two to really promote having at least going that way for this week.
Walker is supposed to play through his glute issue, but it's not fantastic. We have that going on. He is our consensus RB22, not ranked any higher than RB20 or RB24. Charbonnet comes in as our RB28. So we are starting those running backs ahead of Bam Knight, Ramondre Stevenson, Kenneth Gainwell, Rashad White, Tajay Spears. We are starting Walker and Charbonnet behind Aaron Jones, Jaylen Warren, Emmanuel Wilson, Breece Hall, Travis Etienne, amongst others, including DeAndre Swift. So definitely we will be going with DeAndre Swift over Kenneth Walker for your question. Let's see. Sky needs 2, Chris, PPR flex, Kenneth Walker, Ramondre Stevenson, Breece Hall, Darnell Mooney, and Hunter Henry in that cake matchup there against the Bengals. So I'm definitely going, with all that said, give me Kenneth Walker and Breece Hall. I think that's pretty clear.
I think those are the two I would go with because Ramondre Stevenson, even though, remember, it was all the way back in week 1 of last year that Stevenson plowed through the Bengals defensive front for over 100 yards and a touch, if I'm remembering correctly. So it wouldn't be too outlandish to say that even with the, let's say, limited touches that he might get in his return from the toe injury, he could fall into the end zone too. But I would say we don't have the same concerns about the amount of touches for Breece Hall. And even Kenneth Walker, with the split between him and Zach Charbonnet, we did see Walker used a bit more once they got into scoring position. The broken tackle rate, forced missed tackles, all of that stuff is still there for him. So I'd say those two guys I would have the least amount of concerns about. Whereas with Darnell Mooney, it's having to play with Kirk Cousins. We already saw that earlier in the year when they had to play against Miami, and they had one of their worst offensive outputs of the season. And Hunter Henry, I would feel a bit better about him if Austin Hooper was going to be out, so those targets would condense at the tight end position. And also, we've got so many other options for Drake May, especially with Kayshon Boutte back, Stephon Diggs, of course, leading the way. I don't see how he winds up getting enough targets to really make his way as a fantasy option at the tight end position, outside of course, getting into the end zone, which he probably will since he's playing against my Bengals.
From Ricardo, Prescott, or Darnold, it is consensus here with Dak Prescott. So again, tough matchup against an improving Eagles D, but we are 5 for 5 there with Mr. Dak. From our guy, Dan, PPR need 2 for the flex. Kittle, Jennings, Pierce, Burden, Fannin, Tracy, and Tucker. Chris, I do believe George Kittle for sure. I mean, dude's obviously George Kittle. He's playing well. And then I would go Alec Pierce over Juwan Jennings and Tyrone Tracy. Those would kind of be my final 3 there, but give me Alec Pierce. How about you?
Yeah, that's the only concern, like we were talking earlier, is how well is Daniel Jones going to be able to play? But I think to the point you were making on a different question is that while Daniel Jones has been struggling with some of the turnovers and some of those drive-killing type plays, we've still been able to move the ball fairly well on outside of all of those turnovers, right? His passing success rate has still been around like 45, 47% in each of those games, which again, it's the down to down efficiency. It's the things that are going to wind up providing some production for the pass catchers that we really would want to see. And like I was noting earlier, for the amount of play action that Daniel Jones has been using, Alec Pierce has been the second most or third most targeted pass catcher on that offense when he has been using play action concepts. It's really been Pittman, Pierce, and Tyler Warren that he's been focusing on those. So if there's any way that the Colts are going to be able to move the ball against the Chiefs, it will be through one of those guys with how easy Shane Steichen has tried to make things for Daniel Jones.
I will say, Chris, I was looking at this as Trey Tucker, and producer Matt is probably right. It probably is Sean Tucker. Does that change things for you?
Oh, yeah, a little bit, because I would say the volume should definitely be there for Sean Tucker because his efficiency as a rusher was, I would say, head and shoulders above Rachaad White in any of the single games that he had posted. The only concern would be that the Rams defensive front, I want to say they've allowed just 1 or 2 100-yard rushers all season, just like two rushing touchdowns. So that's the only concern, is that the volume should be there for him, but will the same efficiency that he just had last week be there for him? So I get that, though. I would say Kittle and Tucker, I think, is a fine, or those are 2 fine options out of that group.
Tucker, Pierce, really a toss-up for me. Make your choice there. Definitely George Kittle, though. I appreciate you. A few more from Greggy. Let's see. Tedder McMillan and Sean Tucker. Dude, Xavier Worthy, we just can't trust him at this point. So I think that one's pretty clear. Chris, would you be trading for Lamar at all costs if we have a playoff spot locked in? I'd be a little hesitant to, man. I think he's going to put up perfectly fine numbers. I'd be surprised if he's not a top 5 QB the rest of the way, but we just haven't seen that cheat Konami code rushing upside from him. I think he's playing at less than 100%. We continue to see that with him missing Wednesday practices. So at all costs for Lamar, no, I'm good.
At all costs, because then at all costs to me then presumes you're trading away, I would say, a fairly advantageous asset on your roster in order to get him, which you would probably need. So, and we're already looking at the fantasy playoffs right around the corner, and I get that he's going to face Cincinnati twice and of course, and the Steelers as well, but he does have 2 tough matchups in week 16 and 17 against the Patriots and Packers. So if you're going to wind up losing a pretty important asset in order to pick up Lamar, I don't think I'd do that.
Couple more running backs we would be starting Emmanuel Wilson over with no Josh Jacobs, Sean Tucker, Devin Singletary, and Tony Pollard. So yes, Sky Raven will go with Emmanuel Wilson for that one. From our guy Bob Son, Genty versus Judkins versus Sean Tucker for RB and PPR. I think Genty and Judkins situations are almost identical. That said, I'm more scared of, I would say, the Browns defensive line than I am the Raiders. Not that Max Crosby isn't terrifying, but it's just Myles Garrett versus anyone in the league. Like, I'm more afraid of Myles Garrett there. So yeah, I would say give me Judkins.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Either way, it's Max Crosby trying to chase down Shedeur Sanders or Myles Garrett chasing down Geno Smith. Both of those teams right now, I think they're bottom 12 in fantasy points allowed to the running back position. But it's just the Browns; they're the worst of two evils. So if I had to go with any of those running backs right now, it probably would be Judkins.
Versus Phantom, we are Team Otten with David Njoku, off the injury report and playing there. Full PPR and a toss-up, though. Got drop 1 for a kicker, Tucker or Emmanuel Wilson. Oh, man.
Are we still talking about Sean Tucker?
Yeah,
please tell me in this case, are we talking about Trey Tucker? That'd be great if you're talking about Trey Tucker in this one.
I know. Presumably still Sean. Wait, because no one's going to be sniping you on a kicker. Wait, see if Jacobs plays. If he plays, and you can cut Emmanuel Wilson. But not ideal, my friend. I don't want to advise. This was going to happen, Chris. I'm going to say drop Sean Tucker, and they're going to clip that, and then I'm going to have to explain myself when the context isn't even included. So
how about this? So I would say this. So if you without even knowing if Josh Jacobs is going to play or not, we do have enough indications or reports that Bucky Irving is supposed to be back next week. So if this is going to be the last shot for Sean Tucker and there's going to be no value for him next week, he probably would be the safer one to drop. Now, if you need either of them for this week, of course, you do have to take that into account. I'd say the safer one to drop, just with what we know is going to happen in week 13, I would say it might be Sean Tucker.
I think that's well thought out. Last one, Ibuka versus Pierce. Yeah, Emeka Ibuka, man. Still, I know it's been rough recently, but we're still giving Emeka Ibuka the benefit of the doubt there, particularly in full PPR. Our guy Craig's in the chat. If he goes, play Josh Jacobs or go with Charbonnet or Rashad White instead. Worried about Jacobs being limited. I know, man, but versus those guys, I'm still going with Josh Jacobs. Again, 28 touchdowns in 28 games with the Packers. And honestly, just some of his quotes about it later in the week when he was talking to media, basically saying more so a pain tolerance thing, more of like a deeper bone bruise than anything I think is going to be limiting him too much. So again, not a doctor. I was have to explain to people, at all hours of every single day. But Chris, again, Jacobs versus Charbonnet or Rashad White, like, okay, I told you guys where Emmanuel Wilson's ranking without Jacobs. If Jacobs came in, I think I kind of get to that Genty Judkins line, Chris. Like, I would probably start Kyron, Travion, Javonte, and Dowdle over Jacobs and give him like that sort of, kind of ding in the ranks because of the injury. But once I get to Genty, Judkins, ETN, Swift, we kind of have our own problems going on with those guys as well. So I probably have Jacobs around that RB13, RB14 spot, well ahead of guys like Charbonnet and Rashad White.
Because after you get past some of those guys, it's volume concerns or matchup concerns for any of them. So I think that's the right way to put it. And if I want nothing to do with Rashad White, I mean, if there were already reports about the heavy dose of Sean Tucker that we're going to see until Bucky Irving returns, it was all of the missed tackle or tackles that he was taking versus forcing missed tackles. It was the amount of times he was getting hit behind the line of scrimmage. I mean, there's a reason why they tossed out Sean Tucker and put him ahead of Rashad White. So I would say he's the least of the guys that I would want to start in that group.
Little big man hanging out, needs to start 2.5. Sean Tucker, ETN, Kenneth Walker, DeAndre Swift, Bashaw Tootin. I think it's Swift and ETN. If you're really concerned about the Tootin coming on stuff or the Swift or the ETN shoulder, which I'm really not. I still think ETN is going to be a lead back. Maybe it's closer to 60-40. I just don't see a takeover happening unless ETN really is banged up, but he doesn't have a status today, so no real reason for that. It's 4 really good options inside the top 20. We're not starting Tootin yet. I think maybe we could by week 13, but you just can't feel good versus these guys. So I would say Swift and ETN, Chris. Definitely Swift. You could talk me into Tucker or Walker over ETN. How do you feel?
Yeah, I would say Swift is probably the best projecting option out of that group because since Swift came back, we've seen less and less of Monangai. So I'm definitely with that call. And then somewhere between ETN and Walker, I would say was where I'm at, because if I'm looking for the floor of carries plus the upside and of course the matchup to go with it, I would say it's either one of those two guys. Because while we were just kind of praising Sean Tucker, he does have to go up against the Rams defense, which is something of a tough out. So I'd say it's either one of those two guys. It's definitely Swift and then one of ETN and Walker.
From our guy, Mike, happy Thanksgiving to you too, man. A full PPR David Montgomery or Ricky Pearsall, and then another league, Monty or Judkins or KW9. Judkins over Kenneth Walker and David Montgomery for sure on that one. I'm also going David Montgomery over Ricky Pearsall. Chris, Ricky will have better days and everything. You're not going to goose egg every single week out here. I just think, man, 10-point home favorite against a bad Giants run D. I mean, if we're not starting Monty over a wide receiver 3 in that spot, what are we?
Yeah, exactly. And of course, our good buddy John Daigle posted David Montgomery's salary on DraftKings and had the meme of the F around and find out guy like right next to it, because it's just you always we've heard about the reports from Dan Campbell after was it the last 2 or 3 weeks that they want to continue to get David Montgomery involved. And then of course it's just Gibbs scooting down the sideline for an explosive rush instead of Montgomery getting into the end zone. So I'm with you. I would want to start any Lions piece that I have, almost all the way down to, I'm surprised we're not getting more Brock Wright questions with the Sam Laporta news, them playing against the Giants this week. But I would say Montgomery is the guy that I would prefer because, yeah, with Ricky Pearsall coming back, I mean, we just had to wait 3 weeks before George Kittle came back from his injury and found his way back into the rhythm of the offense. So I would say let's give Ricky Pearsall a couple more weeks or maybe another week or so before he's back on the same page as Brock Purdy, and David Montgomery would be the guy I would choose here.
Not Jay Daigle F around and find out tweets. So appreciate you, Johnny. From Lucky Tom. Last week, Bryce Young booned and Flacco busted. This week, who has the higher floor in their matchup? So, look, Bryce Young, that was the second time he's cleared 6.6 yards per attempt in a game. It was an awesome performance, guys, but we've just seen far more from Joe Flacco. I'm still going Joe Flacco. I admit the 49ers defense has been a shell of itself without Fred Warner, third worst defense, I believe, in the league in EPA per play since week 6. So I get it. It's just, we can really just watch one really good performance from Bryce Young and say, oh, that's the guy we're getting now. I don't think so. I just think that Joe Flacco, even if Drake May and company run away with this game, we could see kind of a similar sentiment and just, I guess, game script as that Bears game where Flacco just keeps on throwing, even if it's not pretty in real life. He still gets there in fantasy land. So no Jamar Chase, obviously, but I don't know, man. Just that Patriots defense, as much as I do respect Christian Gonzalez, I still think T. Higgins can win against anyone. I think there's enough guys to go around, like Mike Gesicki, Andre Yosevas, even maybe Mr. One-Hander, Mitchell Tinsley out there, Chris, to still do some good things. So give me Joe Flacco over Bryce Young still.
I think that's fair. I just, of course, I mean, y'all see the hats behind me. It's always tough for me to try and stay somewhat positive about the Bengals. But in at least the couple of games that we have seen without Jamar Chase, it's kind of the phrase of necessity is the mother of invention, where they've had to incorporate more of the tight ends, whether it's been Gesicki, whether it's been Tanner Hudson, or any of the ancillary pass catchers in order to generate enough production to keep them within whichever contest they find themselves in. Do I think they're going to win this game? No, absolutely not. But is there going to be enough passing production from Flacco in order to make him a worthwhile or viable quarterback option over Bryce Young? I think that's the case.
It's closer with our other rankers, but for the record, it is 5 for 5 Joe Flacco over Bryce Young. I'm a little bit more spread out, but you know how it goes. Let's see. All right, we do have a Thanksgiving side question from our guy Griggy.
Let's go.
It light. Start, sit, cut, sweet potato casserole, stuffing, mashed potatoes, mac and cheese. There's 4 of them. That's okay. It's Sunday morning. No time for good math here. All right, I'm starting my stuffing. I'm sitting sweet potato casserole, even though it's good. I don't want to cut anything. I'll cut the mac and cheese because I can have that at any point. So I'm going to rank them, Chris. Stuffing, sweet potato casserole, mashed potatoes, mac and cheese. Where are you at?
Yeah, I'd say let's start the sweet potato casserole. Okay. I'm gonna sit the stuffing. I'm gonna sit the stuffing. All right. And then we're cutting mac and cheese. Unless you provide me with some variant on just your typical Kraft mac and cheese recipe, like let's toss some pulled pork on top of it. Let's throw some jalapenos. Let's spice this dish up a little bit. Unless you've got some awesome recipe for me that's outside of the norm, I'm saying we're cutting mac and cheese. We need to get over this, y'all.
I love Kraft mac and cheese more than anything. I've forced my wife to now, like when it's midnight on a Tuesday, I'm like, hey, do you want mac and cheese? Like she now knows to say yes, because that's code for like, I want mac and cheese. So let me make this for you. So,
man.
Little big man, Swift or Javonte Williams in half. Javonte Williams, pretty clearly here. Still the Cowboys, not an easy matchup, but that is going to be consensus Javonte over Swift. Our guy Ricardo, Swift, Javonte, Rico, or Genti start 2. Javonte and Rico, again, comfortably ahead of those other guys, just feeling better about their volume and offensive situation. Matt Durston, keep Barner or pick up Washington. We have reached the sick part of the start sit, Chris. I probably lean. Yeah, no, I think you're good. I'm good with Barner there.
I'm fine with Barner. Did you see Darnell Washington on the St. Brown podcast saying he's 311 pounds?
My God, dude.
God, man. I think he was billed at 260 or something like that when he was at the combine just a few years ago. That man's out there like running around at like defensive tackle weight or something like that. I mean, it's just no wonder he was shoving the Bengals out the club last week. I mean, that's just crazy.
Big man. So yes, AJ Barner, Matt, Tierra Diaz need 2 to hold rest of season. Here we go. Corum, Monungai, Pearsall, Dobbs, Evans. I'm guessing DJ Moore and Baker Mayfield. All right, so gotta do some assumptions here.
To hold rest of season? Okay.
If you don't need the wide receivers, man, like Corum and Monungai have the 2 highest ceilings.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm guessing you don't need Baker because you have another sick quarterback. So I always say, if you have your quarterback, you have your awesome wide receivers, you have a good tight end, I want to keep the handcuff running back. So I would say, especially in non-PPR, guys like Corum and Monungai are going to have the higher ceilings. Evans could be back week 15, week 16. So if you have an IR spot, that'd definitely be ideal there. There's quite a bit of guesswork going on here, Chris. But I would say Corum and Monungai, just if everything else is peachy and we're in like an 8 or 10 team league. So how do you feel?
Those are the better guys, the more valuable guys, because even if Evans comes back, I'm waiting for somebody. You're probably going to wind up doing this. Is Evans needs however many yards per game for him to get to 1,000 yards? I mean, I can already see that tweet getting posted once he returns. Not to say that he's going to get it. So I'd say, just to be realistic, it's the running backs. It's those contingent running backs on the roster right there that have the most value. So I would keep those guys.
That question. Gainwell or Ramondre or Tootin in non-PPR. I want to wait a week on Ramondre and just see if he's back to his old role or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with that.
Probably, man. I'm tempted to go Tootin here, Chris. What do you think?
I kind of like Gainwell for this one because it's both starting linebackers for the Bears are supposed to be out this week, and we have seen their run defense be something of an issue. So I'd say between those guys, it's probably Gainwell for me, but Tootin's probably a close second.
Again, the whole non-PPR thing makes it a little closer to me. But to Chris's point, that Bears matchup is good. And obviously, Jalen Moore not exactly working out 100% either. So good call there. RCH Pacheco, flex spot in full PPR, Kamara, Genti, Emmanuel Wilson, or Jawan Jennings. I'm going to give the benefit to Genti. I do think if Jacobs is out, him versus Wilson is close enough.
Yeah, and Jennings would probably be the other one that I would consider there, like 20+% of the targets, even last week with Pearsall back. So if we're thinking that it's going to be a mix of Jennings and Kittle kind of powering that 49ers offense, then I would say he'd be the other one going up against the Panthers that have been something of, what is it? Drake London dropped, 117, 119 yards against them just this past week. So I'd say Jennings is another one to consider there. So I'd say it's Jennings and Genti or Emmanuel Wilson if we get the Jacobs news.
Crazy, but probably true. Would you start Drake May over Lamar Jackson this week, Chris?
Yeah, probably just with them just going up against the Bengals. Yeah, I would probably do that.
I think I would too, and the Fantasy Life Rankers agree with us. That one was for our guy Pacheco again. Ricardo, Pierce, Diggs, Wilson, Tetero. We got to start 2 in full PPR. So we're starting Diggs.
Yep.
And I think T-Mac. Yeah, Diggs and T-Mac.
Yeah, I think it would be those 2 guys. Again, we're still waiting on the news about Wilson, but I wrote up Teteroa in this week's wide receiver cornerbacks matchup call, and that should be up on the site right now. Going up against the 49ers, they've been, really the type of matchup you want for opposing wide receiver ones. Just any offense that they've gone up against so far, wide receiver ones have done well against. So Diggs and McMillan for me.
Little big man. Brees, ETN, Tucker, Kenneth Walker, Tootin, and half PPR. By the way, Xfinity Star Sit agrees with us. Love when that happens with T-Mac and Stephon Diggs. All right, Chris, we got to start 2 of these running backs in half. Brees Hall, Travis Etienne, Sean Tucker, Kenneth Walker, and Bayshall Tootin. So Tootin's out of the picture for right now. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Brees is probably at the top of that list. And then I would say ETN. It's close, man. It's kind of pick your fighter between ETN, Tucker, and Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, and I don't think I've ever seen that nickname for Kenny Walk. I kind of dig that one right
Kenny
there.
Walk,
yeah, I haven't seen that one yet. I've seen KW3 and like all the rest of them, but Kenny Walk, that's a good one. I would say it's the first two, Brees and ETN, because we've seen the explosive rushing also from ETN and the Cardinals. I mean, what was it? How many? It was last week. CMC just went for 81 and 2 scores against the Cardinals last week. So ETN should be able to pick off where Christian McCaffrey left off. So I would say that's what those two I would go with, those first two right there, Brees and ETN.
Close one up next, Jameson Williams or Tedero McMillan. I have JMO. It's like 2 versus 3 with our fantasy life ranker. So this one is close. I'm not sure the scoring, but I just think, man, JMO and T-Mac, okay, maybe T-Mac gets an extra target or 2. And last week was awesome, but just 4 of the last 5 weeks have been pretty great for JMO. Dan Campbell's the play caller and stuff, but both guys are in pretty great matchups. And I just trust the Lions and Goff more. Like for me, if everything is going to be pretty equal, just give me the way better offense, and that's the Lions.
I think that's fair. I guess I would say just to play devil's advocate, it's how much are the Giants going to push back on the Lions, where you could see a scenario where the Panthers push back on the 49ers, or the flip side of that, the 49ers push back on the Panthers in order to keep this a competitive game and have them continue throwing. Whereas in the second half, if the Lions wind up blowing out the Giants and they're 30 points ahead, what's the incentive for Goff to continue dropping back to pass? That's how you get the Dave Montgomery script right there. Right. So that'd be my only concern, is the systemic risk of the game environment for Jameson Williams.
I'm leaning towards, again, the Lions probably being implied to score more points than anyone involved. But to Chris's point, I mean, that is the more fantasy-friendly potential shootout game environment, if you will, on Monday night. So tough one, man. I'd like to start both of them if possible, but give me JMO by a hair. From our guy Colin, need a flex in PPR. Jordan Addison, Xavier Worthy, or Sean Tucker also have Tootin and Kate Otten. I think it's Sean Tucker over Worthy and Addison.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Jordan Addison, man, for as talented or for as well that he looked within the offense in his first week back, he was catching that deep pass from Carson Wentz down the right sideline in his first game back from injury. It's just he's just not, nobody's on the same page as 9. So I don't think I want to start even Justin Jefferson as of right now with the amount of disarray that we've seen from the Vikings passing game.
Tootin or Singletary in PPR? I'd go Tootin there.
Yeah, I think I'd go Tootin there too. Singletary, while there's I think some level of, I'd say, optimism about what Jameis Winston could provide in a more pass friendly script, I would say Tootin is probably the better of those two.
PPR, which RB to pair up with Jonathan Taylor? Nice. Kareem Hunt or Alvin Kamara? Expecting Alvin Kamara to play. He's a home favorite against a really bad Falcons run D, man. I'm going with Alvin Kamara here. It is close.
Yeah, I guess my only concern would be how often they're going to be playing in the red zone or in scoring position. Whereas we do know that if the Chiefs wind up getting there against the Colts, and Colts won't have DeForest Buckner in this game, so if there's a way that they're going to wind up getting in, has just been Kareem Hunt getting those goal line touches with Isaiah Pacheco out. So that's the only upside for Pacheco, or for Hunt rather, because it's not like he's going to be ripping off explosive runs or anything like that at his age.
And there is another one where that is pretty close, 2 versus 3 with our rankers. So close call for sure. From our guy Cappy, half PPR, Bam Knight or Kyle Monungai, worried about negative game script for Knight. Probably, what do we got going on here? Oh, they're starting Mason Rudolph. All right.
There it is. Okay. I thought I just saw something.
Aaron Rodgers just doesn't want it bad enough. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you probably weren't starting Rodgers. Wouldn't recommend starting Mason Rudolph. I don't think it really impacts the pass projections all that much. We talked about that this week with guys like Dwayne and Matthew Friedman. But good note there. Appreciate you, producer Lamarca. Bam Knight or Kyle Monungai, Chris? I'm probably leaning Bam Knight here just for another week without Trey Benson.
Yeah, he was the one getting most of the, I would say, looked like a committee in terms of the amount of snaps being played between Amara DiMercato, Carter, and Knight. But it was Knight that was getting, I would say, most of the short yardage stuff. He also mixed in for a couple of passes, running some more routes. So from a fantasy context standpoint, Knight was the one getting more of the fantasy relevant touches. So I would say Bam Knight for sure.
Lane to Florida so we can compete with Ohio State again. That's not going to make a difference. I want Lane to go to the Giants, so I think that'd be the most fun. Reunite
That'd be
with
fun.
Jackson Dart, give him another chance in the NFL. But yeah, we'll see what happens with Florida. Marchants, standard, Pickens or Diggs. In standard, man, I'm going to go with Pickens there. I'd probably go with Pickens regardless, but I just think, again, looking for that more touchdown upside, that big play. I mean, only Devontae Adams has more end zone targets than Pickens this year. So Diggs in a good spot, but DJ Turner, Chris, that has been your one saving grace on defense all year. Running backs, tight ends have massacred the Bengals more than anyone else. They've actually been okay against wide receivers. So give me Pickens over Diggs.
Yeah, I would say the only positive for a guy like Diggs, one, he does move into the slot enough, and then also Cam Taylor-Britt, their CB2, he's down for the year with a Liz Frank injury. So DJ Turner isn't the type of cornerback that he does some of that shadow coverage that we see for some of the more high-profile cornerbacks. So there is a way that they can shift Diggs away from him. I'm assuming that's just going to be more of Mac Hollins, the guy that doesn't eat soup because you have to use a fork in order, or a spoon rather. So I think that's where he's going to be the sacrificial X guy that DJ Turner's probably going to see the most of. So I think Diggs still has some upside for this week.
From Dante. All right. I think this is the first time I've said this, and we're 49 minutes in, so that's pretty good. Charbs or Tucker? I think this is the one where I'm going to kind of go to your, all right, are you an underdog or are you a favorite? Because who do I think scores 12 points, like no matter what? I think that's Charbs, but if you need 25 points, that's where I want Sean Tucker. Are you with me there, Chris?
Yeah, I think that's where context of your matchup plays into it a bit more. So yeah, I'm with that.
Let's see. K-Space, pick one. Dobbs, Booty, Goblin, and full PPR. That's going to be Dobbs pretty comfortably. Again, Goblin, we don't know. And then Booty also coming back from the hamstring. It is a good matchup, though. Are you Dobbs over Booty, Chris?
Yeah, both guys returning from injury, and it's also for Booty specifically. He is their deep option, just coming back from a hamstring injury against a team that we're likely assuming that the Patriots should be able to score multiple touchdowns again. So it could be a positive game script for the Patriots once you get into the second half. So if there's going to be less downfield passing for the Patriots, you just could see a scenario where Booty doesn't have to be used in a manner that is at least conducive to fantasy scoring.
To be hungover, messing up all over the place. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but Otten or Jesus Johnson, it's Jawan Jesus. That's okay. I would go Jawan Jesus, but he's also wondering, Chris, if we should pick up Barner, Schultz, or Loveland. I would not recommend picking up Dalton Schultz because he already played on Thursday night. So give me Jawan Jesus. I'm just playing around though. Appreciate you, CEO. From Alex in a flex, Luther Burden or Tony Pollard in PPR. I'm not even going to look at my rankings, Chris, because I probably do have Tony Pollard ahead. I don't want to start Tony Pollard. Give me Luther Burden.
No, I don't want to start Tony Pollard either. I would say out of the Titans backfield, I would rather Tajay Spears, because now this is a game where the Titans are not going to have Calvin Ridley because he's done for the year. Alec Ayomaner is also supposed to be out in this game. So it should be more the pass catching options for Cam Ward. And that's Spears. He was around 15% of the targets heading into their bye and fewer looks for Tony Pollard. So yeah, I would rather let's it might not project well, but let's try and have some fun with our flex spots. Let's get Luther Burden in there. F around and find out type of thing.
Let's go. And I also did check. And I had Burden ranked ahead anyway. So give us some Luther Burden. Dallas Goedert or Mark Andrews in half PPR. I'd probably go Mark Andrews, man. He's going to find the end zone seemingly any game that Lamar is going to suit up. Goddard, he kills the Cowboys, his namesake and everything. It's very close. Goddard, Andrews, and Hunter Henry. It's like one of these guys is not going to score a touchdown and bust, and the other two are, and they're going to be just fine. So they are in that exact same tier. I'm just more confident, I think, in this Ravens passing game going up against the Jets. Not that the Eagles can't shred the Cowboys, but you had Overshown, you had Quentin Williams. I think the Cowboys can go from being like one of the worst defenses that we've seen in the NFL, like literally in the last year or two, to just being kind of like below average. So give me Mark Andrews here. How about you, Chris?
Yeah, I'm with that. I think over the past 6 weeks or so, the Cowboys have been top 5 in pressure rate. They just haven't been getting home and turning a number of those pressures into sacks. So if there's going to be enough push up front in order to try and limit what Jalen Hurts is trying to do. I mean, I could see how Dallas Goedert gets involved, but let's just hope Kevin Patullo has some sort of way to beat Dallas's zone coverage versus just letting AJ Brown out there and not getting a pass until, what was it, the back end of the fourth quarter. So let's just hope that there's a better game plan for today. Mm-hmm.
Use this spot to get them going. So Xfinity Star Sit Tool could not disagree with me more there. So, these freaking analytics and projections and AI, all Dwayne's nonsense, isn't seeing, the way I am. But I'm going to Rashid Shaheed here.
I don't mind it because I would say in the first game that Shaheed played with the Seahawks, he got a couple of manufactured touches, like whether they were on screen targets or end arounds. You could see Clint Kubiak trying to get him integrated into the offense as quickly as possible. And I would say that the path to trying to get him involved, because this is a team still fighting for a playoff spot, that they would want to get Shaheed involved as quickly as possible. And against the Titans, that would be the best way to do it. So I agree with the approach. I'd say it's Shaheed, Burden, and then Tootin in terms of who I would go with there.
Agreed, my friend. I love it. Heather's hanging out. PPR need one wide receiver, running back, and a flex. Okay, we got Montgomery and Tucker and Knight are our running backs. I'm starting Montgomery over Tucker.
Yeah, I would say it's probably Montgomery, Tucker. I would probably go Montgomery, Knight, and then Tucker. Just looking at the matchup for Bam Knight, I kind of like that one a bit more.
And then Pierce, I think, is your best wide receiver. So give me Pierce and Montgomery. And then for the flex, it would be between Tucker, Worthy, Knight, Booty, Slayton, and Downs. I think I lean Tucker over Knight. That would be probably between the two, though. You're more team Knight, Chris?
Yeah, I just a bit more. But if she has the extra spot, I mean, trying to fit in Tucker there, I think also makes some sense.
Okay, so I think you got probably the right order: Pierce, Montgomery, and Tucker. And then also in PPR, Jalen Warner, Michael Wilson. I go with Michael Wilson just in that one.
Yeah, with the with him running more of those like outside on the perimeter, like those hitch routes that they were trying to get Marvin Harrison on the same page as Jacoby Brissett with. I mean, those are the types of routes that the Jaguars corners have been somewhat, I would say, they've been giving up a lot of those passes to opposing perimeter wide receivers. So I'm with Michael Wilson for this week, especially in PPR because the volume should be there.
Not Dallas. It is consensus. Daniel Jones over Jordan Love. Oh, man, sometimes I love you guys, but just, you list like 12 players sometimes. PPR, 10-team RBs. We need 2 RB. Oh, my God. I'm sorry, dude.
Jacobs ruled out.
Japan. Oh, he is ruled out.
Pelissero is just posting it.
Wow. All right. Emmanuel Wilson season, guys. Again,
there we go.
RB 18 range. Don't get too carried away. Like we are starting to Genty and the Judkins over him. But once you get more into the Sean Tuckers, Aaron Joneses, Alvin Kamara, Bam Knight, we are going to be starting Emmanuel Wilson over those guys. Sport in Japan, PPR, pick one flex. Here we go. Chamari DK, Darius Slayton, Bam Knight. It's probably Bam Knight. DK really interests me because, again, it's not just Calvin Ridley out, but it's also Alec Manor. That said, they're facing the freaking Seahawks, man, where I could just see Cam Ward throwing for like 90 yards out there. So I think it's Bam Knight.
Well, you were mentioning it earlier. We're this deep in the show and haven't considered matchup context. If you're behind in your matchup, I would say that DK probably is the one that I would go with, just for the types of routes that he runs. He plays more in the slot. He is their speed option. So if you want to try and get some sort of pop from that position, I would say DK profiles as that type of player that can do that. And then Bam Knight would be the floor option out of those two.
Knight and DK popping off in our Xfinity start sit tool. Can't say enough good things about this tool as always. From Bill CD. Sorry, lost my spot for a second. CD Lamb, man. Just again, come on. What are you going to do? Not start CD Lamb. What are we doing here? Okay, I got it back. Sean Tucker, worthy in PPR. Sean Tucker.
Yeah.
Jake Seeley needs to know where you drank Darius Slayton. I got Slayton as like a wide receiver 3. That whole thing, it was me versus Jake. It was Darius Slayton versus Cooper Kupp. Like just the worst offseason argument debate you could ever freaking imagine. So great times in August. Justin Otten, Jawan or Hunter Henry in full PPR. Hunter Henry against the Bengals there. That one is for sure. Jose Rodriguez, Michael Wilson, Jennings, Judy, or Godwin. Pick one. That's Michael Wilson pretty comfortably.
Yeah, because even with Judy's volume, I mean, having to play with Shador, I do have some general concerns about what that's going to look like. So yeah, Michael Wilson for sure.
Shout out from Wyoming, Chaya Bros in the chat, full PPR, AJ Brown, ETN, or Alvin Kamara. Oh man,
probably ETN.
Been for Brown, yeah.
If all things being equal, if we have no match,
yeah. Chris just couldn't take the question. Honestly, I don't blame him, but I actually would go Travis Etienne there over AJ Brown. I have it ranked that way. So good stuff there. We'll try to get Chris back on. Otherwise, I will try to run through as many of these as possible here in the next few minutes. Monungai, Corum, or Burden needs 2 from our guy Kaneki. I would say Calvin, who I don't like starting 2 from the same team necessarily. Kyron is his RB1. Oh, Kyron's your RB1. I see. Okay. Yeah, Monungai and Burden, I think I probably just roll with the Bears in that case. So Kyron's your RB1. It's a tough matchup against the Bucs. I do wonder if, Corum getting stuffed the 3 straight times. Maybe we see less of an even workload here in this one. So tough one, obviously, but give me Monungai and Burden. From Matt, flex Watson or Loveland. Christian Watson. I'd love for Loveland to be a thing right now, but they want to keep Cole Kmet going. From our guy, Lord Humongous, Charb or Slayton in the flex. Give me Charb in this one. Again, guys like Zach Charbonnet and then obviously David Montgomery. I know we can't feel good about that early down grind or touchdown dependent role a lot of weeks, but as 10-plus point favorites, we can feel quite a bit better there. Welcome back, Mr. Chris. Also from Chris in non-PPR, Ramondre or Gainwell or Tootin. I think what you were talking about earlier, man. Give me Gainwell from that group.
Yeah, because just for the matchup and then also how he could be used once they get into scoring position. And now, since we have the news that it's going to be Mason Rudolph and not Aaron Rodgers, they might tend to lean a bit more on either short area passes or just the running game in general. So I like Gainwell there.
We are going Purdy over Brissett. Sam, I lead Kenneth Walker over Sean Tucker. But it is very much in the same tier. Slayton, Boutte, or Yoshivas. I'd probably go Keyshawn Boutte there.
Yeah, because where Yoshivas runs and the types of routes that he runs, it just leaves little margin for error. He is more their contested catch, third down type of guy. And even in those situations, has had some brutal drops. So I'd say if you want the better matchup, say Boutte is probably the best of those 3.
Standard league drop Xavier Worthy as stash Jaden Reed.
Shoo.
I don't hate it. It's fine.
Yeah, it's just, man, how far Worthy has fallen in that offense. But looking at the upcoming matchups for the Packers, especially over the playoffs, Lions, Bears, Broncos, Bears again, and then the Ravens in week 17. So, not the best matchups, but if we are looking for the slot guy to really come ahead in that group, I would say, yeah, Reed could probably do it, assuming he's back.
I would go Sean Tucker over Tootin and Pearsall, Ocho, Michael Wilson over Kenneth Walker, Dominic Pierce or Sean Tucker. I usually lean the running back in these close ones. It's very close. Monty or Gesicki. Definitely Monty. I love Mike Gesicki, but come on.
Yeah.
Stafford and Purdy ceiling play. I think we all have Stafford ahead. Are you with that too, Chris?
Yeah. The guy's on an MVP role right now.
He is crushing it. Fannin or Strange. Probably Strange.
Maybe it's his first game back. That would just be my only worry is that first game back, see how well he integrates back into the offense. Should be plenty of volume, but still, that's my only worry here.
Javonte or Chase Brown. I'm team Chase Brown in full PPR. They both kind of have tough matchups. I just think Chase Brown can catch 7 passes out there.
Yeah, I do wonder how much the Patriots are going to try and stack the box and short circuit what the Bengals try and do on offense. But that's really, we can't project that. But I'd say Chase Brown for sure.
I have Burden a few spots ahead of Tootin Bob, Zach, Gentio, Dunze, Hendo, pick 2. I go with Dunze and Hendo.
Dunze and yeah, that's fine. Henderson for sure. Dunze, again, it's just more of which type of Caleb Williams game are we going to get in this matchup. So it's still, I'm with that.
Jen, I prefer Darnold over Bryce Young. Matchup's good for Bryce. Obviously not too much to fear for Darnold. Again, just more so what we've seen this year. Justin, pick 2, full PPR, Pittman, Mooney, Parker, Washington. Definitely Pittman. I lean Mooney over Parker. I know our first run around with it wasn't great. That was just a 1-game sample size, though. So Pittman and Mooney for me, Chris.
Yeah, and of course, I guess the report.
Was the report. So give me Pittman and Mooney there. Chief Wood, full PPR, need 1, must win. They're all must win games, but no, I hear you. Wilson versus Wilson, Emmanuel versus Michael. Wow. We even got Tyler Warren thrown in there as well. All right. I got Manuel Wilson 39th overall. I got Michael Wilson 45th, Tyler Warren 44. So literally all between 6 spots. But hey, give me Emmanuel Wilson. Best of luck, my friend. Sans alone, Josh Jacobs is not playing. Dobbs or Juwan. Go ahead and give me Romeo Dobbs there. Let's see. All right, last one, Greg. Appreciate you, man. B-Rob, do not drop him. You have McCaffrey. You got to drop one for a kicker. That's so annoying. If you don't need him, man, I'd probably drop Christian Watson. Gadsden, I feel like you can almost get something out of him. So I'd say Watson or Gadsden, just because, like, if you don't need to start them already, like, I don't think it's going to be completely killing you. I really hope it is Mike Gesicki season because I drafted way too much of that dude in best ball throughout the summer. Obviously, they have nice splits without T. Higgins in there as well. I will go Roma Dunze over Jalen Warren. Fricky situation where, we've seen a Dunze kill man coverage heavy teams this year, and he's going to have that opportunity here against the Steelers. Also just kind of wondering about Jalen Warren coming off that ankle injury, how split it's going to be. Loveland or Strange? Give me Strange and full PPR. I just can't trust Loveland's usage right now. Bam Knight, St. Brown. Like, what are you putting Amon-Ra St. Brown to start sit question for? Respectfully, Jen. Come on. We're starting Amon-Ra St. freaking Brown here. Tootin or Pierce. Give me Pierce. Silva thinks Lions and Giants are going for 60 plus. They could, man. Silva knows ball. The GOAT. George Halani or Chris Brooks. Give me Chris Brooks, man. Give me Chris freaking Brooks. Brandon, Stafford or Hurts. Give me Hurts. He could just fall into the end zone 3 times from the 1-yard line. And then Olave or Metcalf. Give me Olave. Just, again, he's been the more consistent receiver already. And then when you go Rodgers to Rudolph. I will say, though, I made some DraftKings lineups like yesterday when I was just chilling watching college football. I like the Bears, like Caleb, Rome, Burden, and then having Metcalf as a bring back there. So I wouldn't completely count that out. Thank you for the Sublime shirt. Compliments everyone. I also love them. I got a tie-dye Snoopy shirt I got breakout too. Tie-dye just always puts me in a good mood. All right. George Halani question is awesome. T-Mac or Higgins? Gotta go with Higgins, Teo. Again, no Jamar Chase, man. Come on. Pearsall, Wandale, Montgomery. I would go with Demont. If you need more upside, I get going Wandale, but, optical, Kamara or Henderson. Go Henderson, man. It's just the Bengals matchup. I know he's going to see maybe 12 to 15 touches instead of 20, 25 with Ramondre back. But I just think, again, the matchup is so freaking good there to go ahead and make me go with Hendo. Super flex, Daniel Jones or Sam Darnold, 6-point passing touchdowns. Oh, that makes things closer. That's tough, Maddie. That is freaking tough, man. I'm going to go with Daniel Jones, but it's very, very close. I don't blame you for going otherwise. DK or Slayton in PPR, go ahead and give me DK. Greggy, we will not. Well, so we're going to be doing the Wednesday ranking show where Dwayne and I do go through start sits there. We'll be back Sunday next week for this again. Emmanuel Wilson or Henderson. We are going with Henderson. AJB, Diggs, Pickens, or Jefferson. We got to sit one. I would sit AJB. Mr. Roy, I don't think I would drop Bill for either Titans RB. Washington has a really good running back schedule coming up. I understand it's looking more like it's Chris Rodriguez, but maybe coming out of the bye, they switch things up. It's not like we can feel great about the Titans. In the meantime, I'm sorry, Jose. I'm trying to get to all of them. May or Lamar. We are leaning barely towards May. Henderson over Kamara. Definitely Emmanuel Wilson over Tootin. God, Tootin fever is crazy. I mean, he is, he looks explosive out there. So, Burden over Slayton. And last one, our guy Justin getting it. Appreciate you, man. Jacob's out. Wilson, Tucker, or David Montgomery. I'm going with Emmanuel Wilson. Just one last time before I get out of here, guys. Again, Emmanuel Wilson for me is coming in as my RB18. Okay, that is behind Breece Hall, DeAndre Swift, Travis Etienne, Quinshon Judkins, Ashton Genty, and then Kyron Williams and all the ballers that were starting anyway. Guys, I would start Emmanuel Wilson over Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara, Kenneth Walker, Jalen Warren, Kareem Hunt, Dave Montgomery, Zach Charbonnet, and yes, even Sean Tucker. So hopefully Chris is doing fine. I think his internet just kind of crapped out a little bit, so no worries there. But anyway, appreciate you guys. As always, though, I'm sorry I couldn't get to every question. We have a free start sit tool at fantasylife.com, okay? 100% free. Hopefully you're subscribed. That'd be cool if you did that as well. But the start sit tool is free. Again, it gives you the opportunity to say if it's a toss-up, if you're trailing, if you're ahead, all those things. Again, helps use Dwayne's up-to-the-minute updated projections to help give you, a scholar, the best advice possible. So please check that out. Otherwise, appreciate you guys tuning in. If you like the show, then please like the show. Always helps when you guys hit that subscribe button as well. So for Chris, for producer Matt, I'm Ian. Thanks again for tuning in. And until next time, take care, everybody.